Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. And it was what felt like absolutely going to be a panic podcast, Eliot Shorr-Parks, as
Yes.
it's certainly for the vast majority of that game. Felt like we were going to be talking about a second straight loss and the season spiraling out of control. But when it mattered most, Jalen Hurts came through, and we'll dive into it all. But look, a lot to complain about, a lot to bitch about, and we will. And you're live in Indy. You saw it in person. But I'll just tell you right off the top, a win is a win. And Jalen coming through when it mattered, like we talked about all week, was my number one takeaway from the game. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, so I'll start with a couple things. First is we're live on video. I'm live from Indy. For those that are listening to the pod, we will be doing live post-game pods now. The forehead is looking shiny with the light, so it's not.
It looks great. Don't worry.
No, it's looking a little shiny. It's all right. But so
I didn't even do it. Like my hair's all over the place. Like
I know, James,
good.
but we just can't all be as naturally good looking as you. You know, like we can't all do it. But so I think there's obviously a lot of takeaways from this game. But as I was walking upstairs to get ready to do this, the number one thought that I have is this. I'm happy for Nick Sirianni. I'm happy that Nick Sirianni got this win. I was down in the locker room area after the game. He walks off the field. He's incredibly emotional. I mean, he's hugging Howie. Like, you can tell how much this meant to him. At one point, he kind of bent over and let out like a deep breath. He goes to the podium. He talks about how much it means for Frank Reich. Like, obviously him and Frank very close. And there is so much negative from this game, like so much negative. Well, on the offensive side of the ball, Gannon, of course, down again. Gannon,
we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
How many games does this guy have to win?
We'll
for the team
get
before?
into it, but I'll just say, credit where due. Sometimes we'll get there.
Yeah. But, the offense thing, we'll get into some of the play calling. I thought Sirianni actually was the worst person in the
Me too. Him and Steichen.
Of everybody.
Yeah.
So I'll say, coming up from the locker room, I am happy that he won for him. You can tell how much it means to him. He's an emotional guy. As two emotional men, I know we can sympathize with,
oh, buddy.
A moment that means a lot, right? And it meant a lot to him. But this also reminds me a little bit of the post-game pod from Houston, where unfortunately, you were off covering the World Series, but you said something in your opening thing that reminded me of that. Like, winners win. And here's the thing. This was not a pretty win. It was not a win that makes you feel good after the loss against Washington. It wasn't a win that makes you feel good going into the Packers game or the Titans game or the Cowboys game or the Giants game. But here's where this win will feel good. When they're hosting the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, right? Like, this is a game when they're at home in Philly, and we're not sitting here talking about, well, if they win this, they go here, but if that team wins, right? This is this game. Like, everyone remember this game where they had no business winning it. The offensive coaching was bad. Jalen was only okay. I thought he certainly big plays at the end. I'm not putting the blame on him, but he's part of the offense. If I'm going to blame quarterback win-loss, and he certainly has to catch some heat for how that offense played. Sloppy turnovers, right? Just like sloppy play. Penalties. Exactly. Like, they had no business winning this game against almost any other team in the league. They probably don't win this game, right? The Colts helped them win this game, but they won. And I just think it's so important to start the pod off with that tone, because every single win in the NFL matters a ton. And especially when you're competing for the number one seed, like, it's absolutely massive. So that's my number one kind of gut feeling from this game is, had they lost, the sky is falling. It's 2 losses in a row, right? Like, all those things, but they won. And really good teams win games where they're not supposed to win it. And this is maybe now 3 or 4 times this year that has happened. If you look at like the Cardinals game, the Texans game, probably a little strong on that one, and the Colts game now. But these wins add up. Now they can slip up against the Packers. They can slip up against the Titans, right? That's what today's win means. It takes pressure off of them moving forward. And in that way, it's an incredibly impressive win.
Yeah, it's a great
important, I should say.
Yeah, it's a great point, especially when you see the Giants lose at home to Detroit pretty handily.
Yeah.
Especially, look, after just losing last week to Washington in a game where, look, they got beat, but they're, 5 different moments or plays we can point to and say, if that went the other way, maybe they don't lose,
right.
We talked about, and that was why, when we did the undefeated thing, and regardless of whether they should go for it or not, that was a separate discussion. I kept saying I didn't expect them to actually go undefeated because it's just too hard. Like, there's a reason it never happens. Like, games happen, balls fall out of hands. You're not as locked in. You're not as up for a game, whatever it is. It's too hard to consistently come ready to play, have the ball bounce your way every time and all that. So, they lost last week, a similar type of game where they didn't play that well and they made a lot of mistakes and there wasn't a lot of good to point to, but, still had a chance at the end of the game last week. And in this case, to your point, they won this time. They won this game and they did it on like of all the things we talked about coming off the loss. And it was, it was so funny from at least from the perspective of what Elliot and I do, having just talked for so long about how consistently awesome this team was, how, when they lost, it was like, oh, we need to, kind of adjust a little bit and talk about some different things. And I think of all the things we talked about, especially with the Goddard injury, that I thought was kind of the most important thing was the Jalen Hurts, kind of narrative being like, all right, you know what? It's time for him. He's been great all year. And of everyone, he's been, MVP candidate and taking a big leap and all that, but you lose Goddard. You come off your first real adversity moment of the season and lose. It's time for Jalen Hurts to lead the team, right? If he's going to be the franchise guy, if he's going to get the big contract and all that. And we believed he would. We both had confidence. But in a day where nothing's going right, penalties, fumbles, like you said, like things are just not going their way, to see Jalen in the fourth quarter really put the team on his back. I mean, let's be honest. Some of those runs, some of those throws, the Quez throw, obviously the second touchdown run, like the fourth down conversion, like all these things where he was the best player on the field when they had to have him be the best player on the field. And that doesn't matter nothing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I feel a lot of what you just said. He had some big plays in the fourth quarter for sure. The run to, I think it was like a 26-yard run early on that drive that gets him down into Colts territory. The throw to Miles, like just giving Miles a chance. Now, let's be honest, he lucked out a little bit. That pass was not going to be caught, even if there was no defender on the field. So they luck out there a little bit. The pass to Quez was really, really good. Obviously the run where the field just completely opens up and he runs it in, but I don't feel actually as strongly as you do about it, just because although he did have big plays, and again, like they probably don't win this game if Jalen Hurts isn't their quarterback. I know they had the one turnover, but that wasn't really his fault. Another example of where things aren't going well and Hurts doesn't let it snowball on them. But like, as Jalen progresses, right, and as Jalen becomes the guy that's making $45 million, he has to start carrying some blame, like I put on Carson, when the offense only scores 17 points. And I know the Colts defense is good, but that offense was terrible for the majority of this game, right? Like terrible.
Agreed.
And I'm not putting it on Jalen's play. I'm not.
Well, there were some fumbles and there were some, misses.
Yeah, the fumble by AJ.
Yeah,
was certainly part of it. But they just look to me like inept on offense all day. Like inept.
But I get it. But again, when it mattered, and like you're gonna have that, but they made it happen when it mattered. And I agree. I'm not trying to dismiss it. They were bad for the majority of the game. They put themselves in a position where they couldn't win. They had 3 and outs when it mattered.
Right.
They did have turnovers when it mattered. But again, ultimately, to your point, you said it. The phrase that sticks out of everything you said so far is winners win.
Yeah.
And when it mattered most, after a crappy day, after everything not going Jalen Hurts' way or the offense's way, he put together 2 massive drives. And to your point, recovered for the second drive after a massive fumble that, was a real killer there when he was moving them. So I don't know. I get your point, and I'm not saying, oh yeah. And again, look, I also put a lot of it on Steichen and Sirianni. I thought they 100%, were awful. 100%. They were awful today.
Terrible.
Terrible. 3rd and 2, Kenny Gainwell. That's your play, and then you do it with Boston Scott later. Like it was consistently the wrong play calls in the wrong spots. So I think. Jalen wasn't perfect today. It wasn't his best game ever or whatever, but they were down double-digit points going into the fourth quarter, and he gave him 2 big drives where he was easily the reason they moved the ball down the field on those drives. Like, that matters to me. You know what I mean? More than the bad performance early in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't think he was bad today. Like, there weren't missed throws. There weren't bad decisions. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. I guess all I mean is 17 points from the offense is not good enough, right?
Look,
and he's the quarterback. He touches the ball on every play. But to your point, this is not a game. Like, I remember the last time I recorded a pod like this was in Detroit, right? With the beautiful dome behind me, right? You know how I feel about a nice indoor stadium. But I remember after that game, I was saying they don't win this game if Jalen Hurts isn't their quarterback. Today, I don't think there's many quarterbacks that they win if it's not Jalen Hurts, right? Just some of the plays he made with his legs. And this is why I do think quarterback win-loss is such an important stat. Like, the dude just doesn't lose games. Like, 9-1 on the year now. And you mentioned it late in the game. He doesn't look rattled at all. Like, it's not a stretch to say the season was like, up in the balance a little, right? Like, if they lose this game, things start to look really ugly. You go into prime time next week.
Certainly can say the most pivotal moment of the season so far.
Yeah, 100%. And he got the job done. Ultimately got the job done.
And real quick on top of that, like, made some great plays with his legs. But I know we've talked about it. But again, on display today, the accuracy, the throws, his
accuracy is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Elliot, it's like
it's on a rope too.
I'm getting chills talking about it because it feels so improbable that he's improved this much in that department in offseason. Yep. It's so impressive, man.
It's unbelievable. I mean, look, like some of the plays early on the offensive side of the ball, all he really kept going was AJ across the middle in stride, and Hurts throws that ball. Like, we talked all offseason about how being in the offense for another year is going to help him mentally and like knowing where he has to go with the ball. I also think it helped him because he knew exactly what throws to practice all offseason. And you can tell he knew he was going to be throwing a lot of those crossing routes to AJ Brown, right? A lot of comebacks on the sideline to Devontae. Like, those throws that are a staple of this playbook, like a huge part of it, he's really, really good at them. And to improve that much year over year is incredibly impressive. And then today, to get the win, despite what his coach and head coach did to him as an offensive play caller, was also incredibly impressive. Like, I'm surprised we've gone 12 minutes, and I give us credit for not coming out and just being completely negative off the top.
But yeah, dive in,
but
please.
We had like
they were hard. Like you said at the top, I think you're dead right. Sirianni and Steichen were the two worst Eagles today.
Yeah, it wasn't Hurts, wasn't Gannon. Like, it was Sirianni and Steichen. And it wasn't, I mean, there was just so many things. Like, I after you say you took your notes in the notepad, I tried to take some notes today as well for the pod. So I got a few, yeah. So let's just talk in general though. So Goddard goes out. Goddard's not playing today. One of the things coaches say all the time, and we used to rip Chip Kelly for this, right? Was Chip would be like, oh, I coach for, the Johns and Joes, not the X's and O's. But then he obviously just ran his system no matter who was at quarterback. as obvious by the fact that Sam Bradford was doing, RPOs, right?
Yep.
Today, I feel Sirianni coached and Steichen called a game that was not reflective of the fact you no longer had a competent tight end. Jack Stoll, Calcaterra, Tyree Jackson, all incredibly young players. They might have bright futures. They are not ready for the roles that they were put in today. Like, there were so many plays today on big downs too, by the way, where they were doing 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and no AJ Brown. Like, where I think there was 3 straight plays in the second half where AJ Brown was not on the field, and Calcaterra was, or Stoll was.
Well, and the Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell decisions.
100%.
And like, what are we doing? Why is Miles Sanders on this freaking team? Like, Miles ran great again today, like, for the most part,
And I don't know if that was game planning or rotational.
Yeah,
and I have a big
down
problem
Gainwell on the field. I get it, but don't hand him the ball. Like, what are you doing?
Well, but I think they're two separate things. Because, so late in the game where he gave it to Boston Scott 3 straight plays was incredibly egregious for a number of reasons. One, why are you calling 3 straight running plays? Like, I get that you want to burn clock to an extent because you don't want them to have a ton of time on the other side. But you need to score. You need to get the lead, right? Like,
I didn't like him giving up that play before the 2-minute warning, and then I like him giving up the timeout after. I hated both. I want to get into that. The third quarter, at the end of the third quarter, just gives away a play too when you're down multiple, like double digits.
I want to get into that whole sequence. Yeah, I want to get into that whole sequence. But what I meant on a larger scale was coming into the game, he did not, in my opinion, have a game plan that was reflective of his personnel. He had a game plan that was reflective of what he wanted to do on offense. There is no reason these tight ends should have played as much. Like, dude, Tyree Jackson has not played at all this year.
This is a great point.
Played last year.
Like, go for receivers, get Quez and Pascal out there, do more of that type of stuff.
We can nitpick some of the penalties on Tyree Jackson. I saw a replay of it. I thought it was the correct call. It was probably nitpicky, but also like that's what happens when you have somebody that's learning the position in that spot. And you don't have to have him out on the field. He's not the starting tight end. He's the third tight end. So the fact that they were going to these 12 and 13 personnel packages so much, to me, was stubbornness out of the coaching staff. And like you're like forcing it. Like, Goddard is really good. Goddard's no longer there. You have to adjust. And I just thought the combination of putting those guys out there while also taking AJ off the field, like AJ should be on the field for every single important down. I don't care if it's 3rd and 1 inch and he stands out on the left side. He is your $100 million receiver. He needs to be out on the field on every big down. And to have these tight ends in there, it's like ridiculous.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know. Yeah. I think you're absolutely correct. And again, to your point and to the points we're making, it was a disastrous day for Sirianni and Steichen on every level, from the personnel they chose to the play calling decisions they made to the time management Sirianni had. Like, it was unbelievable for two guys who have had, a really outstanding season. And we've talked about Sirianni as a coach of the year guy, and Steichen, what a revelation. And he's getting head coach buzz and all that. And deservedly so. Like, they've been great. It's really strange that today it was almost like every decision they made was wrong almost. Like it was wow. And if it weren't for Jalen, to your point, like I don't think he wins the game. I think Jalen won the game today in spite of them, as you said.
I want to, I had 2 situational questions I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, love it.
So the 4th and 4 play, they're down 7-0.
I would have taken the points. I was super happy to take the points. Yeah.
So
super happy to take the points.
Down 7-0, 4 yards out. So 4th and goal from the 4, I guess, is
took the points. And I was very, very happy in that situation.
I liked it too. I thought like I could see the general kind of public that always gets so pissed whenever anyone kicks, being like, oh, you go for it. I thought in that situation, it was a good read on the game by Sirianni. You needed points. And also you need to be aware, this is what he didn't do with the tight end packages. You need to be aware of the fact that your offense is struggling mightily. Like it is not looking good. So even just the fact that getting points is important. I thought the fact that they knew the offense wasn't playing well, like just kick the field goal, and obviously ended up being huge. I don't think they would have.
Oh my God, totally, dude. And I think that to your point, I think that it was pretty clear, at least in my mind. I felt really early on, I'm like, this is going to be a low-scoring football game. Like,
you could just feel it ugly right away.
Yeah, and especially after that first drive, they walked down the field, but they're running it, so it's like, all right, that's time that's going to come off the clock. But then, they shut down the run after for the most part, and then it just kind of, you could tell it was like, there's going to be a slugfest. This isn't going to be a 35-30 type football game.
What'd you?
Go ahead. What's the other one?
Well, the other one was the
4th and 10.
The 4th and 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured, I was fine going for it on 4th and 10. I certainly don't want to punt there, and I understand the idea of not trusting Elliott there. Like, I might have kicked it. Look, it's in a dome. Jake's great. Like, I'm not going to kill him. It would have been a 58-yarder. Like, and then you're set back another 7 yards and all that. And you're asking a lot from your defense. And look, they came through. My bigger issue with the 4th and 10 is Jalen not just heaving the ball at the end of that play. Like, it's 4th down. Like, honestly, it's great if a Colts player catches it. Great. Awesome. Then they're not getting the ball at that point.
I disagree with that, actually.
Why? It's 4th and 10, though. If it's 4th and 10, the plays they get the ball either way. So if Jalen, when he's I'm talking about like at the end of the play, when he's like almost out of bounds, and he's out of like, just heave the ball up. Because worst case scenario, a Colts player catches it, and it likely won't be their ball at the 40 unless they take it all the way back or something.
Well, so that would be my
what are the odds? Like that doesn't happen. Like, especially if you throw it up high and there's a bunch of people around it, just heave it. See what happens.
Yeah. No,
that was my biggest problem with it.
Yeah, so the decision to go for it, I was okay with at that point. I think a field goal would have been really tough. The defense was playing outstanding. You're at a point in the field where it's not like they get an automatic field goal, right? Jalen, right away has pressure in his face. He rolls off to the side. I thought that his decision to go out of bounds with it, like, I get what you're saying. Don't take the sack. Don't come up negative yardage.
Makes no sense.
I just have
it's
visions.
4th down. It's
I know.
4th down, though.
I just have visions of him tossing it across the field and like,
I'm saying,
I don't know.
Throw
Part
it
of me
up
is
high.
like,
I'm saying at that point, punt it. I'm saying throw it up as high as you can towards the end zone and give your players a chance to either try and go for the ball Or if someone else catches it, is dumb enough to catch it. Honestly, what probably happens is Colts players don't want it and they try and bat it down. But regardless, like at least try it. Maybe a guy catches it,
maybe
you
get
get
a
him at
pass
the
interference
10 or pass interference or something. Either way, if you go out of bounds, it's over. It's done. Like, what's the down? Like, yes, you're right. The only downside is the potential for him to take it all the way back. But like, come on, if you heave it like that, the odds are so low. There's going to be enough open field for some. I agree. Don't throw a rope somewhere and try and squeeze it in or whatever. I'm just saying, like, punt it, essentially. That was my bigger issue with it.
And I agree with that. So I like ultimately I think it's risky, but I do see your point about not just, about just tossing it up and the chance of a bad player unlikely.
Let me say something. I just want to give you credit. 20 minutes into the pod.
Take as much time as you want.
You're a pro. We always talk about this. All the real ones know Elliot's the best.
Yes.
The fact that you haven't crowed about Gannon and the defense and we're more worried about which one and the whole thing.
I know. I was thinking about
20 minutes. 20 minutes. I was waiting till the 20-minute mark to bring it up. So you know what? Like I said before, credit where due. Like, go ahead, buddy. Because you know what? They don't win the game. You said they don't win without Hurts, and I full-heartedly agree with that. They don't win without the defense and the adjustments the defense made today.
Well, so I thought actually the personnel today, I mean, Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph.
How about it?
Like, I mean, if they're only going to get better, like Eagles
how
have the
about
best
it,
defensive
how
line
about
in football. But to
when
the defense,
they got the sack together, by the way, that was like maybe the funniest play of the
season. Was so funny. Yeah. So the defense was obviously outstanding, obviously. And like, I don't know how many games they have to win for the offense before people start to give. And it's so funny at the beginning of hold on. At the beginning of the game, they go right down the field and score. And yeah, look, that was bad for sure, right? That was bad. But like everyone's already like fire Gannon, and this guy sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at what they did after that. And look at how big they were in big spots. Jalen, after the Jalen fumble, they don't let up a touchdown. The special teams where they have the false start and the terrible punt with the long return, don't let up a touchdown. After the 4th and 10, don't let up a touchdown. They created a turnover after the Eagles scored their touchdown. The Eagles then went to proceed and give it right back.
I know.
And the defense, once again, if I'm not mistaken, they got the stop there.
Stop.
Right?
Yep.
Now, here's what I'll say. The Colts are not good on offense, right? Like, they're not. Matt Ryan, I think, did make some nice plays today, but they're not a great offense. They have some decent skill position players. I was surprised Jonathan Taylor didn't get it as much as he did. There was like a long stretch. He had
like 50 yards on the first drive, 47 or something. Yeah. He ended up with 84. It was like, we're ripping Sirianni and Steichen. I think Saturday and whoever the play caller are deserve some ripping too, because like after that first drive, I'm just living and dying with Jonathan Taylor at that point against his defense.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I'm looking at it now. He has 22 carries. It felt like he didn't have that
22.
Much. He averaged
like, I think it was 7 for 49 on the first drive, and they got a touchdown.
He averaged 7 yards a carry.
So then he only had 15 the rest of the game after that. Like, what are you doing? Not even double that, barely double that. It's crazy.
And not just that, he had 15 carries the rest of the game and only totaled maybe 30 yards.
Yeah.
Right. Like they completely shut him down. But if you look at like the stretch of the game, so they give the touchdown up, right? Then it's punt, a field goal where they were put in a bad spot, a field goal where they were put in a bad spot, a punt, missed field goal, fumble, another field goal in a bad spot, and then downs. Like I think after that touchdown,
that's phenomenal.
I think after that touchdown, you can argue they didn't have a single drive where it was like, all right, that wasn't great.
No,
like in terms of the accomplishment of what you wanted to accomplish on that drive. Like the offense was putting them in really bad spots. We talked about the Washington game where they didn't play complementary football. The defense today helped the offense. The offense did nothing to help the defense. The defense basically, let's be honest, had to play perfect football from after that first drive on. If they let one drive up where they give a touchdown and then all of a sudden you're down, like 20 something to 3 or 10 or whatever it would have been. Like that game was in the balance the entire time. It was only alive because of that defense. And I'm not even here to crow about Gannon because it would be inconsistent of me to blame the personnel when they play poorly and then, give Gannon credit when they play well. Like I thought the players were great today. I thought the tackling was really good. TJ Edwards was really good. He was really good in space with tackling, right? Like I thought the corners played well. Josiah Scott had a big play along the sideline of forcing an incompletion. Like they just stepped up. And then Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph were unbelievable. I mean, not just a half a sack, but like Linval Joseph, I'm pretty sure had a tackle for a loss on the first drive. And it was also so funny to me that on the first drive, they have Suh and first of all, Joseph starts the game. He's out there the first snap.
I know.
Suh's out there on the first drive. They play a ton of snaps. I'll be interested to see what it is. And it's the biggest indication to me that this team clearly knew it was personnel that was the problem in the run game, right? Like they clearly knew personnel was the problem because, and it was like Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, like Marlon Tuipulotu, like Milton Williams. These are not good run defenders. They're not good at it. So like Joseph and Sue come in and they're better at it. So like as the season goes on, I think they'll play even better. Look, they're older. So, who knows how it holds up. By the way, still like, did Robert Quinn even play? Like everyone in the world on the defense is having a good game. It's like he's not even out there. But another big play. What'd you think of the Jonathan Taylor thing where it's almost,
I thought it was great. I couldn't believe they didn't blow the whistle, but that's a great job by the defense, right?
It's
keep
kind of
playing.
like it's like the Eli Manning Super Bowl thing where it's like they're about to blow it and then they don't. And
then good job by them. It was awesome.
Yeah, stripping it out. But the defense won them the game today.
It was the defense and Jalen. And look, to your point, and you mentioned this on the pod, I believe, last week, where you're like, and look, great job crowing. I know you said I'm not going to crow, but you did crow, and it was very
a little
good.
bit,
and a little bit. It was a nice job by you.
Yeah.
Defense. But I'll crow a little bit and say, Jordan Davis, pretty important player for this football team, huh? Who saw that
obviously
coming? Like Jordan Davis, but also to your point, what I was going to say is something you mentioned on the pod this week that I thought was a really good point is like, if you're going to come into the season drafting Jordan Davis, and clearly we know that why they drafted him and how important he was to what they want to do. How do you not have someone like Linval Joseph on the roster already? Like, how are you not ready for some sort of eventuality or whatever?
It's insane.
And look, Linval, we'll see. The fact they had to play as many snaps, they got to come back and play again. And these are old guys, and we'll see how it goes. But it is pretty crazy. To your point, you said down the pod, and I was like, great point, Elliot. Like, if Jordan Davis, who again, I don't think that it's just strictly 1-to-1. He leaves and they're horrible, but I do think the role, and he's good at what he does in that specific role. And I think that we didn't realize coming into the season that role was incredibly important to the success of this defense.
Well, and what's interesting too, when they drafted Jordan Davis, we had a lot of debate about like, what's his upside, right? Like, can he turn into whatever? But I also think when you drafted him, he came in as an NFL ready prospect as a run stopper. And I think that they were like, all right, you know what? We think he can develop. But bottom line, this guy is just a massive human that we can put in right away, and he can be really good against it. And then to your point, like, he's like 70 more pounds than Marlon is, right? He's, 30 more pounds than Fletcher Cox is. And Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are not good against the run anymore. Now, props to them today too, though. Like, they were out there for all those stops. I haven't rewatched it, but like, Linval Joseph comes in and it's an instant fix. So I think it was personnel based. I like people to remember that next time they're ripping Gannon for the run defense about like adjusting and whatever, blah, blah. It pretty much like run defense, and Hassan Reddick said this a little bit, I thought, on the Players Lounge this week. Like, run defense is an all 11 guys type of thing.
He was
like,
good, by the way, Reddick, for the most part. He had some moments.
Yeah, well, he had a big play.
He's just fast, dude. He's fast to the quarterback. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt there.
Well, he does a good job once he's there too of finishing the play, right?
Yeah,
like,
he does.
Not to take a shot at our boy BG, right? But like, he's kind of the
Who
opposite
did
of that.
with a big play too. But yes, I agree. Yeah. Historically, you're talking about with BG.
Yeah, historically,
like, got there in a big moment. But
yeah, he did. So I'm trying to think who else on the defense stood out. Marcus.
Well, I think TJ Edwards. Let's hit it again because I thought he was really important, and that fumble was a massively important play and sticking with it and stuff. And to your point, look, I thought Bradbury played well. Yep. Just in general, Slay had a couple moments early where it was like
they went after him a little bit,
and then he clamped down and got it done. I think. Look, really across the board defensively, I think that the edge guys sweat out a couple missed tackles early. It looked ugly early, and then. To their credit, to Gannon's credit, to really the whole anyone who stepped on the field defensively after essentially that first drive, they deserve a ton of credit, man. They were awesome today. It's Jalen and them, and that's the reason they won today. And a tough game,
Do you have anything else on the defense? Because I have.
So I don't. I was just looking at my notes. I have nothing else on the defense. I have a couple other little things. So
I have another big thing.
Go. Yeah, please.
We talked about it a little bit. Like, we touched on it. So I'm not trying to like bring it back, but I really want to like make sure I emphasize for me, like, so I can go to sleep well at night, how bad the sequence was at the end of the game. Like, how it made so little sense. So 3rd and 2, like 3rd and 2. They're about to be off the field. Like the play's not going well. Hurts throws it up to Miles Sanders. They get lucky. Like it was the correct call, but they also, it's a call that I think if it went against the Eagles, people would sit here and be like, that sucks, because it's not going to be caught. Like Miles stops, which causes a guy to run into him, but it was a correct call.
It was definitely pass interference.
It was definitely pass interference. 100%, right?
I get your point. It was without that penalty, they're screwed.
The next 3 plays, run, and then next 2 plays, run. They run a play at 2:09, which to me is weird. Like off the top. So it's 3rd and 4, right? They run it with Boston Scott. So by the way, right now, 5 straight drives, 5 straight runs. Like, what are you killing time for? The defense is playing well.
It's
like,
crazy.
what's
Just
your
score?
Biggest fear?
Just score.
What's your biggest fear of them getting the ball back afterwards? The defense,
and they're going to get it back at some point, no matter what, down a point. So like, whatever, your D's gonna have to stop them. Like, period.
And for what it's worth, if you do score quickly and then they score, at least
maybe get it back.
I had time on the other side.
Yeah,
so
I thought the whole again, going back to even not running a play before the 3rd down quarter, try and draw them off sides there too. It's like, just get an extra play in. You're down double digits. What are we doing, man?
I 100% agree. Yeah. So 3rd and 4, like you run a dumb play up the middle to Boston Scott. First of all, why is Miles not in there? Number 1.
Why?
But 2,
why?
Then you go to the 2-minute warning, which I didn't like, and then you come out of the 2-minute warning
with a let's draw them off sides and call a timeout. Like, really? Like, just run your freaking best play. What are you doing?
Well, the funniest thing is, so first of all, I think we've hyped them too much up on the quarterback sneak, because I like the quarterback sneak a lot, and they're good at it. But you know what makes it tougher? You know what makes it easier to stop the quarterback sneak? When all 11 players are huddled around Jalen, and you're not even trying to pretend like you're going to do anything else here, right? Like, I hate that formation that they've started to do. But also, it's 4th and 2. Like, that is not a super easy quarterback sneak. So you run up, you're obviously trying to get them to jump off sides. You burn a timeout of your own. Like, I thought it was just dumb. Like, I thought, like, I don't know. And Sirianni talked it after the game and said, like, they saw something and they don't want to talk about it for a competitive advantage or whatever, which might just be their way of being like, wow, that, like, we have real.
Let's distance ourselves from that.
So then, like, Jalen, like, makes it a miraculous play and, like, gets the first down barely. If I'm not mistaken, it was like a draw play or something. He, like, made 2 defenders missing, got the play. They run it again.
Great run. It was a great run.
It was a huge play. And I think we didn't mention that probably when talking about
space, like really impressive 5-6 yards he got there.
He's also really good at falling forward. Like, and I thought he did take some shots today that were probably like not shots you want him to take.
I agree, but he had to. Like, that was the situation. He was willing to do it, you know?
But it's wild to me. Like, I'm going to do this live. This probably isn't the best, but like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Their last 9 plays on offense were running plays.
Wow.
Like, what are you doing? Like, and it barely worked. And, you know, like, I guess at the end of the day, it did work. So you can't kill them like as much as you want to. And who knows, maybe like all these dumb running plays set up the fact that the C opened on the last. But it's like, I just thought it was incredible mismanagement. I thought it looked like, lazy is not the right word, but it was almost like, bro, you have to score. Like, don't act like you might not be able to score. And one thing we've talked about throughout the year when they were 5, 6, 7-0 is like, all right, what could cost this team? And we said special teams a lot. But we've also like routinely throughout the season mentioned little moments where it was like, I didn't love that play call on 4th and 2 by Sirianni. I didn't really like, and this was, you know, besides the Cardinals game, the other game where it was like every little detail mattered here. You won by 1 point, right? And you didn't lead until you got that extra point with a minute to go in the game. So like, I just think against better teams, I mean, first of all, against better teams, they're probably not even in the game, but like, I thought that sequence to me.
Well, that still applies because it doesn't matter. Like it could be a close game where they're both good, but you still have to make those calls in close games.
It's insane.
To make the right like, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 calls in those games. You know,
it's just like it's 4th and 2. You're coming out of a timeout. It's so obvious you're trying to draw them off sides.
Like
it's so obvious.
It was so wild, dude.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they won despite Sirianni and Steichen today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I have zero arguments with everything you just said. I couldn't agree more. That's
Thank
it.
you. Well, you know what's funny? We talk so often about opening the Parks app and seeing where they're at. They were favorites.
I saw you tweet about it.
Yeah, they were favorites with 13 minutes to play, which I was somewhat surprised about.
Yeah, that is
They were
interesting. So it would
losing
be
at
like
one.
after they scored that touchdown, they were favorites.
Yep, yeah, to pull
Yeah, that
within, I
makes
guess,
sense.
3 or something like
That
that.
is interesting. I did feel like that. I felt like they were going to lose the whole game, and then when they scored that touchdown, I was like, oh, I think maybe we're not going to lose. And honestly, it was mostly because I had faith in the defense, which is,
Gannon, man, you gotta
cut
believe him.
Cut that audio.
Yeah. Cut that audio, exactly.
All right, I'm going through my notes.
Do you have anything on the penalties?
No, so that was the last thing I was going to say. I was like, it turns out I don't really have anything else other than, look, it was horrifying to watch. Look, I don't think it was like, the refs were screwing the Eagles or anything like that. I think maybe they were a little too inclined to throw flags, if you know what I mean, like, relax a little bit. You don't have to call everything. They could always be called in every situation, and a lot of refs don't. But, I thought it was sloppy. And to your point, I think that was the biggest spot where we saw the Goddard thing just most glaringly, when it was like the Calcaterra penalty, the Tyreek penalty. It was like, oh, okay, cool. And that one sequence where it was like, where it was like penalty. It was like, all right, man, enough. And look, they tightened it up later and stuff. But again, I think it goes back to Sirianni. I think it's so funny. They win the game and he gets to win in Indy, and I'm happy for him, like you said, but also, I think on literally every level, every area, coming out ready to play, the whole thing, like, of the, what are you going to blame Nick Sirianni for if this goes a certain way stuff, like they all went the wrong way.
100%. And you brought up a good point. I don't think we had said so far, and I haven't heard, like, they did not come out looking like, or at least the offense didn't. I mean, the defense allowed the opening drives. But they certainly didn't come out being like, we're 8-1 and we're going to rebound from this loss. They came out kind of like sloppy. 100. I mean, the offense had a 3rd and 35 on the second drive or something like, or 1st and 35 on the second drive. Yeah. I thought that, I did want to mention this, a week after they clearly got screwed by the Goddard thing. Like, they benefited from that Matt Ryan missed call.
Look,
it wasn't as egregious, but he touched his penalty.
Touched his helmet. I think his hand was there, but I don't think he actually grabbed the face mask. But like, yes, I'll take it. But yeah, I don't think it was like a true face mask, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. Just wanted to point that out.
I appreciate it. Keeping us honest, Elliot.
Yeah, not you, but for all the fans that are always like, blah, blah. Like, I just want to highlight today, the Eagles got the benefit of call in a major spot. Like, if they call that, we're probably sitting here arguing about it because they lost. Because then you have a 1st and goal at the 1, right? So at the end of the day, I think they really benefited from that missed call.
Yeah, that's fair. If it was a missed call or not, we can debate that.
All
right, that's all I got. That's all I got in my notes. You got anything else?
I guess just the last question I would ask you coming off of this is like, and maybe this is something to ponder, but I would like to get your initial take on it. Like, how concerned are you about the offense? Because it's now been 6 or 7 straight quarters of poor play, lots of turnovers. They don't look like they're able to score when they need to. Even when they do score, it looks ugly. Like, I don't know. I think the offense is, and I know we debated it this last week, but like, now that you've seen this, I'm just curious where you stand with it.
I'm not there yet. Again, look, I think, again, the mistakes are driving me crazy, the fumbles and stuff like that over the last 2 weeks. If that's cleaned up, I think it looks a little different. And look, I think they missed Goddard today, and it was clear, and it was their first game without him. And I'm hoping that they can kind of, iron out the kinks a little bit more. So they're still going to miss him no matter what. But I'm not there yet. I want to see how they look against the Packers on, prime time in a big spot. If the offense is bad in that game, then I'll express concern. But right now I'm not there yet. But look, I get your point. I certainly get your point. And if people are concerned about it, I understand. But, I think having Jalen, they still have talented guys there, and ultimately Goddard coming back down the road before the playoffs, I'm not freaking out right now. Yeah. But I get it.
I'm at probably like a 5.5 or 6.
And look, I do think the Colts defense is legit good. Like we talked about heading in.
Yeah, they're good. It's just, I think the concerning part to me is like, there are fumbles and turnovers, and they are negating plays, like against Washington, the Quez drop, right? Like, there are those moments. To me, it just looks like last year, where it just looks like so hard for them to do everything. Like, it doesn't look easy. It doesn't look like fluid. Like, it looks like every nice play they get, right? Every touchdown they get, it's like, oh man, that was a lot of work. And early on in the year, it just didn't look like that. So to be honest, like, I'm not the hugest X's and O guy. So I don't know if like defenses have adjusted to what they're doing or like what's going on. I just know that this is now 2 straight games. And then for what it's worth, the Houston game was not that great. I mean, if the last 3 games, they were tied against Houston, losing against Washington, losing against Indy. So this is trending the wrong way.
No,
like
I get it.
Big picture, like this is trending the wrong
but
way.
I'll
on
also
offense.
say there are ebbs and flows in the NFL. There are lulls, there are peaks and valleys, and I need more of a lull before I'm really going to be concerned. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's fair, but they're definitely in a lull. Like they're definitely in a low.
And again,
and
look, they
need
do
to get out
Dallas
of it.
Goedert. Like it was evident in so many ways. Like if they have Dallas Goedert, I don't think it's as close a game as it was today. You know, I really
do.
They
need to sign a tight end.
Yeah, well, they might actually, Elliot. You're right. I mean, like, where's Gronk at when you need him, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
All right. We'll be back Tuesday with more pods later in the week. Obviously, Parks picks, all that stuff. So we'll get into all that. Look, and again, you know, the message I started the show with, it was a sucky game to watch. I hated it for the most part. It wasn't fun. There's a lot to be complaining about, and there's stuff to be concerned about. But bottom line, which is what we are as a podcast, they won the game. Jalen was awesome when he needed to be the most awesome.
Yeah.
And they're 9-1. And, you know, the Dallas is up 10 right now. So we'll see how that game plays out. But yeah, they're up 10 right now. So we'll see how that game plays out. So,
wow, like almost everything went the Eagles' way today except for the Saints.
So far, the Giants lost, you know, you know, ugly game, but I take today, and we'll see how it finishes out, but right now as a overall win more than I'm concerned or a loss of any kind. But you know, again, it wasn't perfect.
And I know you're excited about the win because you didn't do your thing.
And by the way, now they're down 3 touchdowns, or 17 is another touchdown for Dallas there.
Wow.
So,
I know you're
3 if they don't miss the extra point.
I know you're happy about the win because you didn't do the thing where you yell about the punter. So you know,
I know. I tweeted about it.
Oh, there you go. All right, I'm glad you got that frustration.
Well, when the freaking Indy punter just knocked it right out the 5 or whatever.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Like, why don't we ever get those? Oh yeah, our guy sucks. That's why.
Yes. All right. I think this first maiden voyage live went well.
This was good, man.
Let's
hope the audio. Let's hope you know our buddy Jack
not over
Fritz.
yet.
Our
It'll
buddy
be the
Jack
lost
Fritz.
pod, if so.
Yeah, shout out to Jack Fritz. He's our guy, our favorite. He said that when we're done, the audio will just show up. So if it doesn't, we'll blame him, right?
It's absolutely his fault, 100%.
Yeah, love it. All right, we'll be back later in the week. The Birds won, 9-1.
Yes,
Winners win. Winners win. He's Elliot James. Talk to you guys soon.